Hi, welcome to one more episode of Zindagi Ka Safar. And again, I think this is a reference of uh, someone really changed and helped me take over this particular stage which was there. So when we are all part of the MBA curriculum which was there, we all used to find it very difficult. Yeah. So we always used to go to one person, and she was always more than happy to help. She was the topper of her batch. So we welcome Priya Parthasarthi, who is now joining us from Chennai. So Priya, were you uh, always the topper all throughout your school and colleges and all? Because we tried our best, to be very frank. We tried everything, copying your notes, trying to pay more attention than you. That's what we thought, but I don't think any of us succeeded or came anywhere close to where you were into the ranking.
Thanks, Tuhin. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I've always been a topper all through my schooling and college days. I think that is an affliction I have. I have to be the best at whatever I do.
Good, good.
If not, I remember school days when, if I missed the first mark, I would come home and cry. So I used to be that kind of a child. But I didn't blame other people. So I just tried harder, and then the next one I would ace it. So that was how I was always built. So
Yeah, yeah. So that's wonderful. So where did you do your schooling? Yeah, in Chennai was all throughout, or how was it?
yeah, Chennai all throughout, but I did move around a bit in Chennai. But I finished my high school from a school called Chakravarti International. It's
Hmm.
not there anymore. I mean, sadly, that school was shut down a few years ago. I mean, some of my classmates tried reviving the school, didn't happen.
Oh.
But I mean, it's not there. But then I did my college in Madras Christian College.
Hmm.
Old institution, very prestigious institution in Chennai. So I did my bachelor's in statistics,
Hmm.
after which I came to TAPME to do my MBA.
So was it a all girls college, or how was it?
No, I was never in an all girls system. Throughout,
Oh,
I was
okay.
always in a co-educational system. Never
So
in a,
okay,
probably, actually, never in all girls. Never in.
okay, yeah. So anyway, after that is what I was saying. We were together at TFI Management Institute, TAPME, yeah, and you were the topper there, and then I think you also got into a job which you liked. I think which was market research, or where were you? Your finance,
No,
sorry.
actually,
Okay.
after TAPME, I had a campus placement at, I think, a mutual fund, Can Bank or something. I think it was
Hmm.
Can Bank, but I never joined that. This was in the 90s, and my parents were very reluctant to let me go to Mumbai. So I
Hmm.
didn't. I joined another mutual fund, which was a startup in Chennai at that time.
Hmm.
I just worked for a year, and
Hmm.
after which I got married and I moved to the US.
Okay.
So that was it was a very short career in India after my PG.
Okay. So that's interesting because, as you said, someone who nearly did the whole, at least till graduation in Chennai, and then maybe a couple of years in Manipal, and then maybe a very short period again in when you were doing your work, and then US. So was it a big amount of cultural change, or was it easy to enough to adjust?
Yeah, culturally, yes, because I was the first one from my family to have gone to the US. But
Ah,
now everybody is there. I mean, now the entire family is there. In fact, my parents also moved there later. So, but
okay.
at that time, I was the first one. And,
Hmm.
it was not like today where we are exposed to so many things from around the world. Like, now the kids know everything about Korea. They watch Korean soap. But, back in those days, we didn't have internet. I mean,
Hmm.
can you imagine? Remember the days when internet wasn't there,
I know.
so we didn't have
Yes.
any of that. So exposure was less. So when I moved to the US, it was I wouldn't say a cultural shock. It
Hmm.
was a shock to my system in the sense I thought I was some, super brainy, some super smart person. I went there and felt like an idiot because I couldn't even take a phone call. I wouldn't understand what they were saying. Because I
Yeah.
moved to Texas and that accent was like, beyond me to comprehend. So it took me a while. I couldn't drive initially, after which I had to drive. So, it took some time for me to get used to that place. But before that, I moved to Canada within a year and a half. So, but, adapted everywhere. That's the main thing, right? You have to learn to adapt, which I
So
became
I
very good
think
at.
that's the interesting part because you have, I think, if you now go back, you would have now stayed in different places, at least 7, 8 of them. So you already spoken about this, Canada, and then I think you were in Saudi. Were you in Saudi for
Not
some
Saudi.
time?
I was in Iran for
Iran for
two
some
and a
time.
half
Okay.
months. Yeah. Then I was in Dubai. I was in Malaysia. In fact, it was not difficult to move to any of those places. Where I found it really difficult was in between. I had moved to Mumbai for 3 years.
Oh.
And the language was such a barrier for me. I mean, because I didn't
But
speak
earlier,
Hindi yet.
you understood a little bit Hindi, I think, no?
I understood, but
But you were not speaking so much. Yeah.
I was
Okay.
not conversant. No, yeah. So it was a challenge. That was. I mean, Mumbai was a culture shock for me. That I will tell you. I was in Bandra. It was a culture shock for me. Bandra gave me such a culture shock.
But you were with a lot of celebrities who were there. I think above you are in the same apartment. You have Aishwarya Rai who was staying and all. So what more you want? You can always like.
Yeah, I mean, it was there. I mean, celebrities. I mean, that's the thing with Bandra, right? In Bandra, you're like rubbing shoulders with celebrities everywhere. You went to a grocery store also. Every day I would see some celebrity in the same store that I was buying grocery from. But that didn't mean anything. Life was very complicated for me there, I would say. I didn't fit in that much, I could say.
Weather-wise was fine with I think Mumbai, Chennai. I think similar weather. So
Mumbai was better. Yeah, Chennai is probably the worst weather in the entire world. Mumbai weather was nice.
Okay, that's fair enough. And so in a similar way, I think one more adjustment specifically all of us have to be doing other than we to adjust is about what children's education. So when you move from different countries, as you said, and different, so that was that a thing, finding out a school and then trying to understand the system.
No, we always moved with my husband's company. So they took care of a lot of these. So they ensured that we had the most comfortable. So, I mean, I had nothing to complain about that. We were always given the best accommodation. I stayed in palatial bungalows wherever we were. That was the difficulty when coming back to India and settling down to adjust to these smaller spaces. Then schools, mostly my kids went to international schools. Of course, within that, they changed system. 1 year, they'll be in American system. The next year, they'll be in British system. They did change a little. And of course, they had to adjust to new places, new friends and things like that. But, in my opinion, if you ask me, if I make a big fuss, my kids would also make a big fuss. My husband and I, we never fussed about it. We said, this is life. Let's suck it up. And they were cool with it, I guess. I mean, we never made them feel that this is a big deal. So they also didn't feel it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So this was how life was. So,
but I think it was a good exposure for them, because now anyway your elder daughter, she is studying in London. I don't think she would have be facing any problem. It's like, this is one more place I need to be doing and managing on my own.
They didn't have any problem. Even now they could travel alone and things like that. My daughter, by the way, is not studying. She's finished her master's and she's working now.
Oh, she joined. Yeah, correct. Yeah, yes. Yeah. She's which organization she is in? No.
She works for a company called Compass Lexicon. It's again a multinational. They work in economic consultancy. Some kind of I don't know what they do. She says it's more like a law firm for economics or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's beyond us. Okay. So very, very, very different than, let's say, the 30 years back when we had studied our economics and otherwise. That brings me to the other interesting point about, and that you are always willing to learn. I think that's one of the key things. Competition is always there, but I think you have now moved into the space of digital marketing, whereas people like me are still trying to struggle and figure out how to download a video on WhatsApp or do a video call and all. So how did that happen?
See, as you said, I've always been, with all my moving around in the world with my husband's career, one thing it was always challenging was for me to have a steady career. So I never did. I mean, I worked in one place for a couple of years. Then another country never allowed me to work, so I didn't work. So it was like that. So I always ensured that I stayed in touch or I updated myself with whatever I could do in that place. I never was the type to just sit at home and even though I was an expat wife, I was never the type to go for coffee shops and, hang out with Otherwise I was never that type. So in one of my stints, actually it was in Iran that I picked up a hobby of making jewelry with beads and all that. So I started doing that. And then somebody said, hey, it's very nice. Why don't I buy it from you? I was like, wow, people are willing to pay me for this. I started selling it, and, which one thing led to another. I started then, that was when Facebook had just started, like in 2007, 8 or something. Around that time, I created my Facebook account. And, I started uploading pictures of what I was doing, and people wanted to buy it from other countries as well, which was like, yeah. And then when I moved to Malaysia, I realized that my neighbor was our classmate, Uma. And also Uma also happened to be my best friend from our TAPME days. And she was also doing the same thing. She also had her own, brand, and she was making jewelry at home and selling. So it was just, it was a, no-brainer for us to say, what, we shouldn't compete with each other. Let's do this together. So we created a label called Mayazar. Ma from Uma and Ya from Priya became Maya. Wow. And we started posting pictures on Facebook, and we started selling. Actually, Facebook was what kickstarted that whole thing. And within the first year, we sold we sold for some $20,000 or something, which was like, wow, because it was just a home-based unit at that time. And then soon we set up a website. In fact, I'll tell you, when I started the website, Flipkart was just selling books. So that was like, really early days. And then I moved to India in 2012, and we like properly set up this, we had a company set up and things like that. But then I also realized that if compared to now, at that time, everything was difficult. Like, setting up business was, first of all, very hard. And the ecosystem for e-commerce was not there in India at that time. So, even getting a delivery partner was difficult. I had to pay a Blue Dart or Aramex 25,000 rupees as deposit for them to deliver my stuff to my customers. So it was very difficult. So which proved to be very expensive for us. After some stage, we realized, we are not able to scale because of all the costs that were going into the business itself, not because of anything else. And then we decided to shut shop. In fact, it was also another classmate of ours, Hitta, whose idea it was. She asked me one day, I was just discussing with her that, we are trying to close this down. It's becoming too much to handle. Then she said, what, why don't you pivot? And I asked her, what do you mean pivot? What's the meaning of pivot? And she said, pivoting a business is like, when you change the focus of a business. I was like, okay, maybe I should pivot myself. And she also said, what, I really like what you're doing on Facebook, the way you're connecting with your audience and the kind of marketing that you've been doing. Why don't you give marketing advice or digital marketing advice? So that is when I decided, that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a digital marketing consultant. So my one chapter closed, Mayazar closed, and I reinvented myself as a digital marketing consultant. At that time, I wouldn't say that I knew too much. I knew something. I knew more than what others knew. But I've updated myself again. I mean, Google is a great friend, right? So I've taught myself. And again, another classmate of ours, Ravi Shankar, he was the one who helped me. Immediately he gave me a project. He said, come help me. And he was willing to pay me for that. And so I learned on the job. And it's been 6 years now. I have quite a roster of clients now. And I can say that confidently that, at least in Chennai, I'm one of the leading consultants in this space.
Yeah, that's wonderful, because I think when you're talking about digital, I think all people think it's all to do with technology. Yeah. So you have the digital skill, but I think somewhere you end up missing the business part of it, which not only your experience which you had, plus you also said you scaled up. I think that really is great value add which is doing.
Yeah, so actually digital marketing is not about technology. It's more about, it's marketing actually, using digital tools. But a lot of people think it's just the digital tools. It's not, it's marketing. So how do you use the marketing idea and, harnessing the technology is what is at it. And understanding that is what is most crucial, I think.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's we have already spoken about your entrepreneurship, and now as an expert of there's another very interesting one, and which where you again excel, yeah, which is about singing. And you used to be called, at least batch, and I think it must be at different places also, the Nightingale of Tapney is what we used to call you. So, did you learn music formally, or it's just a
I
hobby?
did
Yeah.
on and off. I did. I mean, no Tambram girl that grew up in Chennai was spared learning Carnatic music and Bharatanatyam. Okay, so I was no exception. I did learn, but I didn't have like a proper tutelage that I could excel at it. But I always had a flair for film music, and so a little bit of that classical training helped me in adopting film music.
Okay. So anyway, everyone will want, not only including me, that there has to be a few lines from you at this juncture. So something which I think all of us used to like, maybe which you can play for nostalgic sake for all of us.
Sure. Let me see if I can get some music also going, because it's
Yeah,
always
if you
nice.
can do that, I think it's wonderful. So
So this is the song that changed everything for, I think, Indians in the 90s, right?
yeah.
சின்ன சின்ன ஆசை சிறகடிக்கும் ஆசை முத்து முத்து ஆசை முடிந்து வைத்த ஆசை வெண்ணிலவை தொட்டு முத்தமிட ஆசை என்ன இந்த பூமி சுற்றி வர ஆசை சின்ன சின்ன ஆசை சிறகடிக்கும் ஆசை முத்து முத்து ஆசை முடிந்து வைத்த ஆசை இலவை தொட்டு முத்தமிட ஆசை என்ன இந்த பூமி சுற்றி வர ஆசை சின்ன சின்ன ஆசை சிறகடிக்கும் ஆசை.
Wow, that's a wonderful. I think very nostalgic, and I think those point in time, I think 93, 94, when we used to hear this song, or at least I used to hear this song. I never understood Tamil, and uh, though there was a Hindi version of it, so I assumed that okay, this is what it more or less meant. Yeah. So, but it's all about hope, which we are talking about, I think, and which is very much needed for all of us at this point in time. Okay, we'll move to the last section, which is there. So this is a very lazy conversation. So this is also going to be what we call a lazy round. There are going to be 5 questions for you, and you just need to be choosing some alternatives, and we'll just move on from there. Yeah. Okay. The first one, uh, amongst these 2 mythological characters, who you think is a more powerful lady character? Yeah. Or whom will you admire more? Sita from Ramayana or Draupadi from Mahabharata?
For me, it would be Draupadi.
Okay.
Because, I mean, Draupadi is usually seen as the woman who was married to 5 men, but I would see as somebody who had so much power in her that she was, 5 men were required to handle her, whatever, she was the equal of all 5 of them. I mean, each one had their own strengths. If you see the Panchapandavas, they were all very strong in some aspect, and she was also a very strong woman. She, in fact, she even when life gave her lots of difficulties, she never kind of gave up. She stood up for herself. She never depended on her husbands, actually. She didn't wait around sitting for them to come rescue her. She, stood up for herself, and she, in fact, made the Bhima, say, kind of like, support her. And when she said that, I will take Duryodhan's blood, put on my hair before I will tie it up. And she actually did it. She made the husband do it for her. And so, I mean, very, very strong character. I mean, I really admire her for that.
I think that's fair enough, because I think those circumstances, and I think in those situations, one person, or we now know that one man can have multiple wives and all, but maybe those time even multiple people could have it. Yeah.
Interpret those stories in today's sensibilities would be ridiculous. I know we shouldn't even attempt to do it.
Exactly.
But just look at it in terms of what their stories teach us, and that's how I would always approach any of India's epics. I wouldn't call them mythologies, and I'd call them epics. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the right word which is there. So, does it in some way, Draupadi, does some of the characteristic resonate with feminism, according to you? What we see in today's context?
yeah, feminism. Yeah, I mean, I don't think feminism is proving that I'm equal to a man. I mean, if
Hmm.
some people interpret it like that, I'm sorry.
Hmm.
It's not about proving that I'm an equal. It's about ensuring that I get,
The
I get
respect.
to
Yeah.
exercise my, yeah, I mean, respected, and also I get to exercise my needs and wants as much as anybody else could.
Yeah.
So, and that's feminism. And Draupadi was, I think, she was kind of an epitome of that
Of
in
that.
those days.
Yeah, and I should be allowed to live my life the way I want, to, what I wear and what I do. I think those are some of the
See,
very
that is
similar
what
things.
it doesn't come down to, like, just because I want to wear if I think that I should wear something fancy, but it doesn't allow either the society, not because society, if it doesn't give me the safety,
Hmm.
or it puts me in danger, or it kind of embarrasses people around me, or it brings me unwanted attention, then
Hmm.
doing it for the sake of saying that, I'm doing
Yeah.
it, I don't agree with that. I don't
Correct.
identify with
Yes. Because it's the
yeah.
same thing for us also. Like, suppose I know there is a lane where I can get mobbed. There's no point
Yeah,
in me saying that, okay, I am a macho guy and I will go there.
right.
I know there are 10 guys standing there just to snatch my thing. So I think those kind of, that will be a false sense of being a macho and kind of doing things. So fair enough. Okay, moving to the next one. Uh, this is another very interesting facet of yours, which I got to know recently. Would you love to compete for a 10K run or a half marathon?
I've actually competed, run quite a few 10Ks.
Hmm.
Uh, but I think you're asking me a more metaphorical question, right? I mean, am I in it for the short run or the long run kind of a thing? Do I
Both
have it
ways,
in me?
both ways. One is the literal one, saying that which one you will
Physically,
do.
I don't
Do
think
you
I
have
can
the
handle.
stamina? Yeah, do you have the stamina to run a half marathon or full marathon? Uh,
Not
Very
now.
politely.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Not now. I
Okay.
mean, things, I have to respect what my body tells me also.
Okay.
But metaphorically, if you ask me, full marathon is what I would go for. I mean, I'm
Would
not
do,
in for,
yes.
yeah,
Fair enough.
definitely. I mean, I will suck up, or I'll take up, small, uh, short-term problems for a long-term victory. Yes, definitely.
So I understand your physical running basically started with Sridhar running, and you were more of his companion, or was it the other way around?
No, you're not understanding me if you think I would run for company. I ran for competing with him.
Yeah, I was about to ask that, but then I said, okay, I don't want some kind of marital discord to be happening after Sridhar listens to the podcast, and also I was trying to be. Now, since you said it, okay, let's hear more about it. So
No, yeah, see, I mean, he started running. I was like, if you can do, I can do it too, kind
I
of a
can do
thing.
it. Yeah.
But maybe that's why I stopped running, because he started running like ultra marathons and all. I knew that,
Oh.
I could never win there. So, why even try? I said, this is not for me. You guys are mad. You're running too much. And I can't.
But now, given the COVID situation, are you able to at least go for your walks and all? Or
Yeah, I walk in my terrace now. So,
okay, that's very much needed, because I see people like me who does not do anything. It's okay whether I go for a walk or does not go for a walk. But for people like you, it will be very important.
so evenings, I walk for like at least 70 to 90 minutes. I walk.
Oh, that's lovely. Wonderful. Okay, the next one. So, are you a fan of Rajni sir or Kamal Hassan?
Okay, why did you say Sir Rajni sir and just Kamal Hassan? He doesn't deserve a sir. Kamal Hassan.
Yes. My bias came out, I think.
Which is kind of like significant of what they, kind of, their stature is in society. But in terms of, like, I used to be a fan of Kamal Hassan when I was younger. I'm not such a big fan anymore. I mean, but I mean, I don't even follow Tamil movies or generally movies so much anymore. So I'm not like And personalities don't appeal to me also. I mean, you come beyond the
Yeah, at
stage
a
where
certain age, they
you're
have now, yeah.
asked by celebritydom and all that. But Kamal Hassan is somebody who keeps, innovating, and he did different things with his life.
Yes.
Rajini was somebody who was like, I won't call it luck, not just hard work, but something worked for him. And he's like, he even became better than Kamal Hassan also. So that is very intriguing about Rajnikant for me. So I see myself, like the topper who keeps trying, like Kamal Hassan, but never gets there. And but there are people like Rajini who's like, I don't know what it is about them, but they go beyond what the toppers of the world do also. This is this is what I've observed. So if somebody could manage the innovative acumen of Kamal with the humility, and I don't know what is that one X factor that Rajini has, that would be the ideal combination according to me. But
so let's say someone like me who can't understand Tamil, but there are sometimes movies which comes dubbed for both these actors who are there. And they have done few which they have done in the Hindi thing, which are very handful of movies which they have done. So for me, it looks like, as you said, from a variety perspective, Kamal Hassan had bought more. And even though the language or is being dubbed by someone else, but still his eyes will emote and his whole face will emote. And so which, I don't know, maybe you require a different kind of mindset to have, again, I will say Rajni sir, because I don't know, tomorrow I don't want some fans to be coming and all, and use some Rajni tactics on me and also. Yeah. But anyway, I think it's based on me as a viewer. So it can, I think, differ from people to people. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So moving on to something more closer to my heart or my stomach in a way. Yeah. So according to you, which one is more tastier, a traditional South Indian food or vegan food?
Vegan food. Okay, I don't know. I mean, I'm a tambram that I live and breathe for tair sadam, as like curd rice, as we call it in Tamil, tair sadam. So I can't give up my curd. So I'm a vegetarian, but definitely not a vegan. Any day. I mean, I grew up a South Indian, a tambram family. So South Indian food is comfort food for me. I could not have any other cuisine and just have South Indian food, and I'll be happy also. I wouldn't miss anything else. So this is all that's, I mean, it's not like I don't enjoy other cuisine, but South Indian is enough for me.
Yeah, definitely. But did you try, the vegan was just a random option which was there. Did you try vegan or any other? Because non-veg will have a lot of different options. Yeah, sorry.
A couple of years back when I went to London, I realized that veganism is very popular there. And earlier, in our globe-trotting days, we used to find it very difficult to find vegetarian food options in some of the countries where we're traveling in. And there were times when I would actually carry grocery to cook, because otherwise it would be very difficult to eat out. Thailand, especially, I found it very difficult to, because, East Asia is very difficult because there's just, there is rice, but there is meat or fish and everything. So it was difficult. But London, I found a lot of restaurants have vegan food, and they were quite delicious, actually, quite nice, quite tasty. Very different from Indian style of cooking.
Or from a vegetarian option, yeah. Vegan has to be vegetarian anyway. Sorry.
Cheese or anything. Actually, my daughter is turned into a kind of a vegan because she's become lactose intolerant. So she's become a vegan now.
Okay. Oh, okay, fine, fair enough. Okay, so the last question for you would be, on a lazy afternoon, will you prefer to listen to Ilayaraja song or A.R. Rahman songs?
No, Ilayaraja any day. Ilayaraja, I mean,
and what about singing?
Only listen to Ilayaraja whole day and I'll be very happy.
What about singing? Which?
Ilayaraja.
Again, Ilayaraja.
Only Ilayaraja for me.
Okay. So I think fair enough. Since again it's come back to music, so and we are about to wrap up this particular podcast. So why don't you sing something for all of us, which will help us to overcome this challenging situation in which many of us are in now?
Okay. Since
maybe some Pepi number, Asha Vosley or something.
No, but since
Okay.
we talked about Ilayaraja, let me just sing in Ilayaraja.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. காற்றில் எந்தன் கீதம் காணாத ஒன்றை தேடுதே அலை போல நிலையாக சில்லென்று வீசும் மாலை நேர காற்றில் எந்தன் கீதம் காணாத ஒன்றை தேடுதே.
Wow, lovely. So from which movie is this song?
This is from an old movie called Johnny. It came, I think, somewhere mid-80s. Rajinikanth and Sridevi were in it.
And who is the singer of the original song?
By S. Janaki.
S. Janaki. Okay. So anyway, I think S. Janaki songs are equally melodious like Kavalata and that kind of thing which is there. Yeah. So I think it's wonderful. With that very melodious note, we are going to be wrapping up this discussion. Thanks a lot for coming and sharing very candidly about your life, about your different things which are there. Yeah. So wish you all the best.
Thank you, Tuhin. Thanks for having me.
Bye.